Tell me your first name.
Richard.
Mr. Richard, how you doing today?
Doing great.
Let me ask you a few questions. What inspired you to become a bus driver?
It was all by mistake. I bought a 48 Greyhound bus, converted it into a motorhome. I bought it, didn't know how to work on it, so I took it to a bus company, a local bus company, see if they can help me out. And they said, oh yeah, we have our mechanic look at it. Well, I was really young. And he says, you know what? And then one of the other drivers came and saw that unique bus, thought it was unusual. And I was telling her my ordeal, and she said, you know what? They're hiring. Why don't you drive? I said, I'm only 19 years old, And she says, so? She says, they'll train you. And it was an older white lady named Claire Clark. And that was in 1975, 76, something like that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but I was driving part-time. I didn't start driving full-time until I was until 11 years ago. Because before I worked at Steelcase for 41 years.
Okay.
I retired from there. Then I started driving full-time instead of on the weekends once a month. Just leave it there. I'll get it. I'll put them on.
Mr. Richard, how you doing this morning?
I'm alive in any color.
Oh, that's what's up. That's what's up. So, we'll start again. Tell us what inspired you to be a bus driver.
Oh, you erased what we
No, I didn't. But we started back where you started. You told us about, you stopped at where you had, you were 19.
Yeah. Yeah, I was 19 and bought a bus, Greyhound bus, 1948 Greyhound. And I had a lot of ambitions and what I wanted to do with it, and turn it into a motorhome, travel to, in between my jobs. But it didn't work out that way. I took it to a bus company and they helped me with it. And it was there so long, it needed so much work. And drivers saw the bus, liked it, and told me that for the fringe benefits, you just drive here and part-time, and you can have your bus work going at the same time. I forgot what year that was.
You said it was 1970?
I think it was around the early, I don't know. To tell you the truth, it might have been 75, 77, 80. I can't remember. Whenever I was 19.
Okay.
I was 19 and 75.
Okay. So, what do you get most out of trips like the Grandma Tour?
I get a lot of trips, a lot of good things from it, but it's a bad thing because the group is so good and so organized and treat me so good. I expect other trips to be the same way, but they're not. They're totally not.
Okay.
So, these people are one of a kind. So they treat me pretty good. They're special. And one blessing thing about them, they're good Black Americans. They try to be, and that's what I like.
Yeah. Tourism is good for interstate business. How can communities be united through tourism and educational excursions like this one?
How they can be united? Well, one thing that this society is a little different. With the way the economy is, trips like this is very expensive. It's like really, wow, young, Black men got good at sports like football, basketball, baseball. It was kind of cheap. you know. Golfing came later because it was more of an expensive, exclusive sport for whites. We got good at those sports because they were free. You know, we get a ball and a glove and a bat and we go play. We get a basketball, we play all day. But touring, doing what I'm doing here is, you know, really expensive. You got to get an organization together to sponsor stuff like this that can donate money. An ordinary kid can just get a group of them together and get involved in this type of tourism and seeing the country, because it's wonderful. I've seen things and done things I ordinarily would have never done if I wasn't driving a bus.
Okay. Do you think these type of tours could be done with youth? And if so, how?
Well, you gotta have a lot of sponsors. You gotta have someone to, you gotta have organizers like Carolyn, my friend. You gotta have other businesses in the community to help fund and sponsor trips like this. And then get them involved, or tell them about it, and let them try it out and see. You know, it's something you can just fall into.
Okay, give us the rules for your bus when you're driving.
When I'm driving?
Yeah.
Well, this is what I like. Today, everybody is on their cell phones or their tablets. To me, when you're riding the bus between the bus, I go places and see things that I think that they should observe, because every state I go through has a different atmosphere, a culture, a way of doing things. The roads, the exits, the on-ramps, the gas stations, the trees, the mountains. I mean, everything is different. But they spend so much time on their phones where they overlook the beauty that the roads and the places we go offer. Especially when you're driving during the day and especially at night. I like driving. It's easy going, it's beautiful, it's calming, not that much traffic. But the bad part about driving at night, you don't see the beauty of the mountains in the country. You know, and I expect them to be, they help keep the bus clean. It's not just my responsibility, but it's the whole group's responsibility to clean up, keep their areas looking as best as can. Because your little seat cubicle where you sit at is like your home for a while. And you wouldn't trash your home and leave stuff on the floor and steal things and not give it up or say anything. Because it's basically, it's for your comfort, for me, to have your area clean. That's it.
Okay. So, you have any other insights or questions for me or anything? Other insights about your profession and tours like this kind of thing, or any advice for the people out there?
I just wish to get more black men and women into driving. We have very few out there. And then once the ones that do come and drive, they quit because things aren't perfect like they want. They're not getting the money they should, or they think the owner of the company is prejudiced, so they get mad and quit. All I can say is that you can't let the prejudice you think they have determine whether you stay, because Jackie Robinson, when he played, look what happened to him. Yeah. He could have got mad and quit. Yeah. Because there was this racism all around him, from other teams, some of his own players for a while. You just can't quit over something like that. You gotta live through it. You can't quit every time you think there's racism or discrimination or a problem. Work through it, and you can set an example for other people.
All right, Mr. Richard, thank you very much. And we are honored and pleased to have you as our driver once again. And we hope to have you on the rest of our trips as well.
Well, if my health permits, I will be there.
All right. Thank you very much.
Bottom of the feet of his bed, and then in the beginning of the Bible, when God brought Eve to Adam, there was no ceremony. He took her. He said, "This is yours." And once they slept together, that consummated. There was no ceremony. Man only did the ceremony basically for money. Is to bring people together. Is to sell stuff. It bring all the. It's all commercialism.
So jumping the broom was more organic.
Yeah, that was. But they were taking their tradition like what they did in the Bible. All you needed was to be in that person's presence.
Did you watch that movie? Boaz?
Yeah.
You watch that?
Oh, I was years ago.
But it's another one now. I haven't watched
I haven't seen the new one.
I haven't either. I gotta watch it.
Okay. Tell me your first name.
Donald.
Tell me a little about yourself and your tribe.
Well, I was born in Knoxville, Tennessee, and we moved from there when I was 3 years old and came to Muskegon, Michigan. I grew up in Muskegon. I went to Muskegon Reese Pupper High School. And in 1959, I left there and moved to Washington, D.C. That's where I met my wife, and we got married. I stayed there for 9 years, and then we moved back to Michigan, back to Grand Rapids. And we've been in Grand Rapids now about 57 years.
What kind of work do you do? What kind of work did you do?
I started out in D.C. I took two trades. I took up barbering and shoemaking.
Okay.
And I ended up doing the shoemaking. When I moved to Grand Rapids, I got a job at Economy Cleaners. And then my brother's brother-in-law got me into the public library.
Oh, okay.
And I ended up there as a maintenance supervisor.
Oh, okay.
I worked there 30 years and 6 months.
Oh, okay. Having been on the inaugural Grandma Never to Be Erased tour last year, was that experience the inspiration to go on this one?
Yes. Yes. Yeah. I really enjoyed that. Yes.
Okay. What did you look forward to on this trip, and what have you been enlightened with so far?
It's really good to be with a group of people, doing constructive things. Really nice people, and so we really enjoy these trips.
Okay. What do you think will bridge the gap between the elders and the youth as far as consciousness and socio-spiritual balance?
What is that now?
Consciousness and socio-spiritual balance, social and spiritual balance. What will bridge the gap between the youth and the elders?
For young people?
Yeah.
We need to get back to some of the old traditions. You know, we've gotten
Rites
away
of
from.
passage and stuff
Yeah,
like
we've
that.
gotten away from it.
Okay.
But back, you know, I grew up in a little community out there in Muskegon, and it was kind of like any adult could control any kid in that area, you know, and we've gotten away from that. You know, we need to get back to it because these young people are getting out of control.
You need to get by, sis? All right. What insights did you come away with from the International Underground Railroad Museum in Cincinnati?
You know, it's kind of. I've watched Roots and those kind of programs, and I really got upset. It was really bad what they did to us, and it's kind of upsetting, you know, to think about. They treated us less than an animal.
Yeah.
You know. So I like to, you know, see this kind of stuff, but then it's kind of upsetting to me.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Any other insights or questions you have for me?
No, not really.
Okay.
You know, these 2 trips have been really informative to me. Because a lot of stuff that I didn't even know about, you know. And yeah.
What were you saying?
No, I was just saying that these two trips have really been informative to me. Because, like when my wife mentioned it to me at first, I was kind of like, I don't know if I want to do that or not. And then I'm so glad I did.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Memorial Day.
Also Decoration Day in the South.
It was called Decoration Day at first. Yes. Okay. Tell me your name.
Deborah.
Miss Deborah. All right. So when you guys come up, when we get off the bus or when we get back on the bus, you each can get a prize out of the box. I've got some books. I've got some bookmarks. Got a couple gift cards, magnets. So there's a prize. So there's that. So I'm going to put the microphone down so we can have some quiet reflection this morning, unless y'all want to talk. All right, I'm putting the microphone down and we can chit chat after.
At a Mexican restaurant in Greensboro, next to the Civil Rights Museum. Our brothers and sisters from another mister.
Everybody's groups are here?
No.
Wow. Awesome. No one's in the bathroom, no one's missing. Okay, perfect. So let me first apologize for the confusion earlier. We are getting on the road earlier than the agenda said. I think the original itinerary said that we were going to be here until 4 o'clock. We were anticipating possibly that the tours were going to take a little bit longer. We didn't know how long that was going to be the case. So once the tours were done, a quick lunch on your own gets us on the highway quicker so that we are getting to the next destination earlier. So we can get in our hotels earlier, find some things to do in the city where we're going to be spending the most time. So that was the thought process behind that. And then Mr. Richards rode us a good long way in the dark through the mountains last night. And, you know, he doesn't have to do that now. So that was kind of the thought process, to get us where we're going earlier, to get to explore the next city earlier, since we wrapped up the tours earlier. So I do apologize for the confusion. Really, I apologize. Sorry. Okay. All right, so a couple of things. We text messaged the group leaders a link to a Google folder where people can upload their pictures so that everybody can share. So group leaders, if you could text message that link to your folks, and anybody that wants to can upload photos, you can actually have access to the photos that are in the drive so that we can all share the pictures together. And if there's anything that you like, you can actually download too. So there's that. Second, Miss Deborah lost an earring yesterday. Remember the black earrings with the stars that she had on? There's one of them that's missing. Mr. Richard did see it somewhere in the back last night, but we don't know what happened to it between last night and today. It was on the floor on the driver's side. We did not see it today, but if someone comes across it, please hang on to it and get it to Miss Deborah. It is about 5 hours to the next city. We're probably going to stop for a stretch break, bathroom break at about 2.5 hour mark. Cool. All right. Any other announcement I need to make before we get rolling? Is the bathroom smell okay back there? Mr. Richard wants to know. Nobody's dying?
No. It's good.
Okay. So, he says he'll take care of any of those issues once we get to the hotel if everything is okay back there right now. Okay, so I'm gonna get us rolling. As y'all know, I do have questions, and I took some notes while we were going through the tour, so I would love to have a conversation about what we talked about in the tour. And I was really surprised parts of it, you know, as it related to what we were talking about during the conversation about Dr. King's speech. So I would love to revisit that conversation once we get rolling and everybody's done eating and we, you know, do the things before the itis kicks in. Because we all know. Okay. Yes, questions? I text the link to the group, folks. You didn't get a Google link from me. It will come under your regular text messages. Okay, I'll make sure and get that to you once we roll. Okay? Or Miss Deborah, can you text message her? Okay, we'll just confirm your phone number. Okay, friends, I think that's it right now. We're about to start rolling. Any other questions before we? Oh, overhead bins. See? Y'all let the flight attendant go. The overhead bins. Let's close the overhead bins. All right, now we're rolling.
All right, tell me your name.
My name's Marcus.
And tell me a little bit about yourself, your tribe, and community.
So I'm a resident of Lansing. I'm on the GRAAMA bus tour because my wife Deborah and I learned about the Grand Rapids African American Museum and Archive, and we just really wanted to be part of this experience and learn more about the community where we're living in Michigan and about our connection to the history of civil rights movement in the South.
All right, you kind of answered that. A little bit more to that question. Why did you initially decide to take this tour, and what did you expect to get out of it, and what do you think of it so far?
My wife and I have a lot of friends who, for vacationing, like they might want to go on a cruise or go up north and gamble or something like that. And we're on this tour, I think, for two reasons. And one is both of us have connections to the South and a family history that makes the history of civil rights important to us. And then the other reason is to learn about Michigan. So it's very unique that you have GRAAMA and these people in Grand Rapids who are putting themselves out to have these experiences together and learn. And so we're learning both about American history and also where we live in Michigan and the people who live there with us.
Okay. How important do you think these types of tours for culture, diversity, and immersion?
I was struggling with the question myself. Why is this important? And I think the answer that came up for me is that right now in American history, you're seeing efforts to erase history. And of course, they're in particular talking about African American history, but African American history is American history. And so I think supporting the organizations that are keeping history alive is really important. The government is erasing history from federally funded museums, and so these private museums are keeping it alive. And then, so on supporting the organizations that are doing that work, and then also learning so that people have this knowledge in their own minds. That's very important.
Okay. Next question. America and the world has a troubling past. How do you think it could heal?
How do I think the world can heal?
Yeah, it has a troubling past. How do you think what's an ideal way of how it can heal?
So I think through much of my life, I naively thought that I knew ways to heal the world. And I think the past few years, I have learned that I know less than I thought. But I've been feeling lately that it's important for communities of people, justice-seeking people, to stay in relationship with each other and to support each other's efforts to learn and make change. And I think that's the way you can weather tough times and come out the other side stronger. And that's what I think we need to do. We need to spend time in community with other justice-seeking people and support each other. And I do believe that it's still true that the majority do want to live in a positive, loving community and are seeking justice. I just think sometimes the bad guys get the upper hand. When you walk around and you talk to people, you're still meeting a lot of good people wherever you go. So sometimes it seems like a mystery. How can things have gotten so bad? But obviously, if we look at history, bad things happen pretty frequently. So it should come as no surprise that we've had a setback. But it did to me. I was naive. I thought we were going to elect President Kamala Harris and we'd be off on our way to a new world, and that didn't happen. So I have a lot to learn.
Yeah. So, what knowledge and wisdom and understanding have you gained from this trip so far, and what do you expect to gain more for the rest of it?
So I think two things struck me. One, I'm familiar with a lot of civil rights history and the characters who struggled for civil rights, but in seeing these museums, the difficulty and the fear that they had to face, it hit me again, really in a very strong way. And I was just thinking about the four young men who sat down at that Woolworth counter, and they had a little video there we saw where they seemed very brave and confident that they were going to make a new world. I'm sure they were actually really scared and probably thought that might be the last day of their lives, and yet they still did it anyway. And that's just amazing to feel what they must have felt. Yeah, and so just personally, help me out here, Blue. I'm forgetting the name of the general. McNeil. Yeah, McNeil, one of the 4 guys who sat down at that Woolworth counter. McNeil. So let me tell the story like this. So my grandfather was high up in the White Citizens Council in Yazoo City, Mississippi, and he did a lot of bad things, very bad things I won't go into right now, but that's part of my family history. Surprisingly, my father, his son, was touched by these events, like the sitting at the lunch counter. And he came home he was in the Air Force ROTC, just like McNeil. And he came home and announced to his father that he supported Dr. King and voting rights. And so he was kicked out of the family for 10 or 12 years and wasn't welcome back home. And it just touched me that my father became an Air Force officer, and McNeil went on and became Major General in the Air Force. And they never met, and my father never talked about McNeil to me. But what that young man did at that lunch counter touched my father. A man he never met, and changed his heart. And that's just so amazing to find that connection in these stories.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about your background in the struggle.
So my background in the struggle. So I think what's significant is that one of the things that I struggle with a lot is that white people always act surprised when they're exposed to true information about slavery, Jim Crow, the struggle for civil rights. You know, if you if people find out, for example, that they had a slave-owning ancestor, or that the college that they went to got its initial endowment from the slave trade or something like that, they always act so shocked. Oh my God, who could have known this? But if you understand history, you know all of the white people benefited off of slavery, and all of us had ancestors who either were active in, slavery or supported Jim Crow, or at least were silent. And what's unique, I think, about my family is my parents both made an effort to teach me and my sister the truth about our family history. So we never went through that shock. We always knew the complex reality of our family, a family of people who loved each other and were good to each other, and we're good in that way. But then they had this other dark side, like my grandfather, who was basically, he was in banking, and his job for the White Citizens Council was to call in the loans of families who spoke up and said, we need to vote, we need to have good schools. So they would call in, they were all sharecroppers, so they would call in their loans, and they would have to leave Mississippi and go north. I often say that I think my grandfather probably was responsible for part of the Great Migration, because he was so mean and hurt so many families. And so we know that. And so if you know that, you're just called to tell the truth and to be in relationship with people and be part of atonement and making a better world. You can't pretend you don't know, but so many white people do seem to not know, and that's another reason for this kind of education on history. Now, people who aren't listening, these messages aren't going to reach them, but I think we need to support things like these private museums. That includes GRAAMA, of course, and the work that we're trying to do in Michigan.
Okay. On a lighter note, what types of music did your family listen to, and yourself? What was the musical taste?
So, Blue, I did notice that you have a lot of involvement in jazz.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's beautiful. I'm going to listen to some of those videos you have out there. So, my mother exposed us as kids to the 60s rock and roll. So I grew up listening to Dylan, the Beatles, Sly and Family Stone, all of that. That was part of the soundtrack of my youth.
Okay.
And interestingly enough, it was my mom, who was a minister, who exposed me to all that music.
Wow.
So.
Okay. Okay. So, do you have any questions for me or any other insights?
No, I don't.
I thought you had some questions for me.
Well, I was gonna ask you some stuff about the history of GRAAMA, but I don't know where to start specifically. I just was gonna pick your brain about that.
Well, I don't know much about Grandma. I met Grandma through Carolyn Ferrari, Diamond Dancer, and I was initiated with them a couple of years ago, and I went on the first tour last year, and that's where I got started videoing, and I got a series I did with them on
Also,
the
it's pretty
inaugural
quiet. Do you
tour.
want to talk a little bit later? I
And,
see some naps happening right now. Talk later.
So
Okay.
I got with them,
V
and
said
then
do it now?
I'm trying to be here on all the trips for them.
Wow.
And it's been growing, and I'm trying to be a part of that growth.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to be a part of, that growth and expansion. Hopefully one year they'll be able to take a bunch of youth on the
Yes.
tour. And if we get a bunch of brave adults to go with us
Yeah.
to take on that task, because youth can be a challenge going on trips together, you know. But that's a vision I have in my mind for this to evolve too.
That's great.
You know, maybe we can have a couple of buses taking people somewhere.
Yeah.
You know, so that's where I'm going. All right, Marcus. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right.
When they finally hear the truth that has been available all these years, they are actually surprised.
Ask that again. Ask it again. Like you asked again, I couldn't hear you.
Where do you think that surprise element comes from when white people are actually surprised? Because I genuinely believe they are. But how can you live in a society not aware enough to not be surprised? It would seem like the emotion would be more of, I'm busted, as opposed to surprise.
Well, you asking them or me?
Marcus.
Oh,
So the moment that I'm thinking of is like on Dr. Gates' TV show where they do the genealogy, and some movie star is confronted with the fact that his family got their money from the slave trade or something. And you see them, what? They're so surprised. That's the moment I'm thinking about. So I do think there are a lot of people who are defensive.
So it's more defensiveness instead of surprise.
Well, people don't talk. I mean, the stories aren't passed down. Marcus
Yeah.
is unique in that his family really passed down his stories. My family, I joke and say,
What do we think about the Civil Rights Museum? Yeah.
I'm 73 and my mom still hasn't talked about it.
Blue's got a finger up saying what?
It's not done.
Hold on a minute. Don't chit chat yet. Anything outstanding that anybody wants to share?
In the blank spot. That's what got me, just letting us know, because yesterday you asked what can we do to make a difference. You might not know your why now, but you may be on that wall one day. We don't know. I pray that someone from this bus will, because that was very touching and moving.
So, what did you guys think about the conversation around the students and involvement of students in the movement? I don't mean to hog, but
just hear her, coming around, talking about, she's making signs for protests. She's at the protest she's doing, and to know that that, like Robin said, she's not on the trip right now, but she is part of Grandma, and she's an awesome part of Grandma, and to see that one day she might be in one of those pictures, because she's absolutely doing it like right now, real time, in Grand Valley, right now, and it's so yes. Matter of fact, she did your agenda in there, so just a little shout out to Jada.
Mississippi running.
And then they also brought out the fact that they're going to try to require all 8th graders to come to the museum. That's one of the things that we're talking with GRPS now about. 6th graders or 7th graders to be mandatory to come into Grandma. This museum has a direction for students. We might, as we rebuild, consider, some of those movements from Grand Rapids that were student-driven and that may have had people who were young at the time become involved in some of the protests, some of the things that happened in Grand Rapids. So.
Hi. I just wanted to share a story in relationship to that, not as a student, but as a military person. During Desert Storm and Desert Shield, shipmate of mine, and we're in the same division in the department. We're both gunner's mates in the Navy back in 88, 89. We were over in the Persian Gulf, and they were getting ready to campaign. They had started Desert Shield, and we were getting ready to go with Desert Storm. It was the day before, the day they went to bomb on Martin Luther King's birthday. They went to bomb Baghdad. And when all this stuff happening, we started finding out what the real reasons for the war was and all the stuff that we were like talking. And this was before the Million Man March. But we got together, me and this brother, and we rounded up all the brothers on the ship, and they thought we was gonna do a mutiny or something, but we were just talking about what we were gonna do when we got back home with our families and bringing the community together and all stuff like that. So I can identify with those brothers and how they felt about, coming together and bringing the community together, because we were doing that on the ship. And matter of fact, I was reading a poem the night they started bombing. I was on the hangar bay, and they did a Martin Luther King program on the ship, and I read some poetry, and I had a picture of that somewhere. I don't know what I did with it, but somebody snapped a photo of me up on stage. But that's my story about being a soldier in the fight.
Thank you. Yes, thank you. Thank you for your story and your service.
Carolyn.
Yes, okay, I'm sorry. Then I saw Miss Linda's hand too, and then Miss Bertha.
Yesterday we were talking about courage, and if we are afraid of things, then it just hits you how much courage the people of that era had. And it's going to take a lot of courage for them to know what they were going to encounter, what they were going to face. But the fight was that important to see that it got done, and they had to.
So for those in the back, Miss Linda was just talking about how we were discussing courage yesterday and how much courage it took for the students particularly the four at the lunch counter when is that what you're talking about particularly? All in general. Yes, and that the era, how much courage it took for people to really take a stand and take the actions that they did during the civil rights era. So Miss Bertha, and then Miss Michelle. Yep.
So again, to the question, what can we do? When I was going through that museum and the other museums, and I thought about what Miss Linda just said, the courage that the adults and the students have. And unfortunately, I just have to address our kids in Michigan. You know, our kids lost that. They don't know. I know some of them do, but there's been no intentional education of our children about what they can be proud of, what happened, who died, like the tour guide said, for all the voting and all this. And so somehow we've got to take up the mantle and educate our children. You know, all my children are adults, but I can tell my grandchildren, you know, and we've got to make them aware so that they know. And it was encouraging to hear that there's a Grand Valley intern at GRAAMA. I'm curious, is she a person of color? Okay, because I worry that, you know, our kids don't know, and so somehow we've got to tell the story, and then I think when they do know, that we'll have some people who will step up and who will have the courage to do some of the things that we need to have happen.
So this is adding to what everyone's talking about with the students. So during the informational meeting, I was speaking with a very intelligent woman, and she had the suggestion of maybe sponsoring young students. You know, members of the museum or people who go on these tours save $50 a month or something and sponsor for a young student to be able to attend something like this. Because today, as I was going through, I'm thinking, this is amazing, and young people need to see this. So I think she had a really great idea. Yeah.
So for participants of the bus tour, because we have thought that we would have a younger person or two. The importance of that again is walking with the students, right? And so as we look to do that and look to make that a part of the programming, you know, surrounding the bus tour, we also need people like those of you who are on the bus with us. One, to, you know, if you know of younger students, to partner with them and to work with them, because if we have younger students come too, we want to be responsible for them and we want to care for them well in that way. So that's just a little encouragement from a GRAAMA staff person that yes, we have talked about it and we would love to actually have it happen, but a little bit more, you know, needs to go into that. So we'll be open to suggestions and other ways in which we can maybe incorporate that part into the programming of it. So.
Oh, I was just going to say, the trip through I was overwhelmed by a lot of it. It was too familiar. And I thought about my dad saying, history repeats itself. Nothing happens that hasn't already happened. But this time, we have to really pay attention and not let it happen in the negative, but only in the positive. But it was almost like, at some points, I just felt like I had to lean against the wall, which would have been inappropriate since they were all pictures, because it was overwhelming to go back again.
Did everybody hear that pretty much? Okay. History repeats itself. Oh, we got one. Okay, perfect. So, question. This is a question for a prize. So don't shout it out. I'm gonna need to see the first hand. What was the name of the girls' college, the girls' university? I saw this hand first. Bennett. Yes, Bennett was the university. Okay, and let me see. There's another question I can come up with for a prize back here. Hang on one little second. What did they call the girls?
No, I already won. Go.
I saw a hand back here on the right. Next to y'all, these names. Sorry. I saw the hand back here on the right first though. Yes, yes.
Bennett Bells.
Bennett.
Bells.
Bennett Bells. Yes. Okay. So remember the prizes. Okay. So tell me your name.
Betty.
Miss Betty. Got it. And then Q. Got it. And then we also have a prize for Miss Bertha. And then we have a prize for Miss Deborah. Okay. That's 4. Okay. Perfect. So when we stop, y'all got to come get them so that I can reset my mind for the next set of prizes. Because, yeah, I don't have a scribe today writing these things down. So I've got scribes. I did not ask for a scribe. I'm sorry. I did not ask for a scribe. You all are correct. So now that we know that, escribe, s'il vous plaît. You know, all the English and Spanish and French and all the things. Please write. Thank you. Got it. Our tour guide, we started at the end and the beginning talking about the Declaration of Independence. And she started off talking about the Declaration of Independence versus reality. So my question to you all is, do you believe that the Declaration of Independence was for everyone when they wrote it? And do you believe it now?
When it was written, it was clearly not written for everyone.
Okay.
Most of us already know that. It was for white men property owners.
Okay.
That was it.
Okay. Everybody pretty much agrees with that?
That's a
Okay.
fact.
So then let's talk about then how this document that we all know was not intended for everyone, how has it, I don't want to ask this question, because people in this country believe that the Declaration of Independence applies to everyone. Why and how? How do we justify that? How do we get there to here when we know that that's not happening? Q, I see your hand. Q says that they are not reading between the lines, that they're kind of reading the words that they want to believe, and they're kind of looking at it through rose-colored glasses and not seeing that this is what's kind of happened that not really applies to day to day. Is that pretty much a good synopsis of it? Yes. So, okay, so we have a comment that people really don't want to see what's happening, and you don't have to be blind to see what's going on. They just don't want to. Yes, Reverend.
Yeah, they're not privileged, so that's not expected of them. Therefore, it works for them, and they don't have to.
So the Reverend said that they're privileged, so it doesn't have to work for them. They don't have to see the reality because it doesn't impact them. George.
And those same people are the ones who have written all the rules, have written all the history, and have taken all the pictures, have shaped the history to form that narrative, and still are doing it.
Okay. Yes.
And I think a portion of us is still enslaved enough so that we buy into that small little bias where it's always there. My mom once said, well, often, white men can only see as far as the end of their nose. And that's as big as their world gets. And other people aren't included in it. And only as workers, only as service, only as those who make their world go around. And so unless we stop and take a look at the history not repeating itself and repeating a positive history, we're still going to be in the same place where 100 years from now people are saying, so what do we do about it? 400 years of people believing that we are not where
Wow. So essentially, we have still kind of somewhat of an enslaved mentality where we don't believe that we belong at the table and we don't deserve the things that the civil rights. Blue, I see your hand. Give me 1 second. So, to that end, here's a question. Because we all work and exist in different parts of community. This is more of a rhetorical question because I don't want, it's not for you to share here unless you want to, but think in your mind about one person that you regularly come in contact with that may have this kind of thought process, or black or white, black people who, I find that in my circle, there are some of us who continually talk down about us. They talk down about black people, you know, we this, we that. They're not encouraging, they don't speak love into our community. And then we rub shoulders with white people the kind of same way. So think about maybe one person that you could have a heart-to-heart or a real no fluff, no small talk conversation with. Think about that. And then as you think about that for the rest of the weekend, make a plan to get that person to sit down for a cup of coffee or a cocktail or maybe a breakfast or a lunch, because these are where the conversations have to start going. And I think that we'll be able to put together more action plans as we go. But for those who are so inclined, maybe we add that to your possible action plan for when we leave this weekend, right? Blue, what were you about to say?
First of all, we have to stop starting our history with slavery. We have been here and we have laid the foundation for the histories of the planet and the globe and the universe. Right. And we were here thousands of years before Columbus and before any Jim Crow or America stuff that happened to us over here with the slave trade. We have to start with the foundation of world history. And the foundation of world history is us. Everywhere, everybody's history and origin has us. And when we start to recognize that, and the artifacts that they found even over here in America with ties back to Kemet and over in China and Angkor Wat and all kinds of places, we have to get knowledge of self to know who we are beyond just, oh, we were slaves. That was a bump in the road. Excuse me, that was a bump in the road. But it wasn't the start. It wasn't the beginning of our history. And we have to recognize that before we can go forward to move out of this conundrum that we're dealing with the civil rights and you know, getting human rights struggle and everything. It's a global struggle. And we have to recognize that the history began with us.
Thank you. Did everybody hear that from the back to the front? Great. Q, did you want to add to that? I saw your hand.
Along the lines of what Blue said, our history does not start with slavery. I encourage everyone to look up Mansa Musa. He is a black man and he's the richest man in our history. That's all.
Mansa Musa. Okay, wait. George.
I will say too, we had Cassandra as our, right? Yes. She was excellent, but I literally counted 8 or 9 times where we could have added Grand Rapids history into all the stuff that she told us.
Yeah.
And yeah, when she was talking about
the histories
bus
aren't
that
complete.
blew up in Anson,
Gotta tell
Alabama,
all the stories all over.
Walter Bergman from Grand Rapids was right on that bus, and there are a number of instances like that. It means that our history, even locally, is rich too. And you know, all of you all are supporters of Grandma. I hope you are. You know, everybody in there who we had as lecturers or retired teachers. So all you retired teachers back there, you know, if you want to volunteer at Grandma, to come and tell those same stories.
I'm looking at you, Betty Burton, Lois Owens, Mary Trainer.
So we can tell that same story, but do it from a local angle. I mean, their job at that museum is to tell all of the history of the civil rights movement. So they're gonna painted with a broad brush. But when you start painting with a broad brush, you leave out a lot of people, and a lot of people, those people were from Grand Rapids. And as I said, we have opportunities. You all do know we have a new building now, so we're going to have plenty of opportunities for people to come in the community and help us do what they're doing. You know, it may be, you might come in and you might just tell one story. You might be the expert in talking about the South High School, you know, but that's what we'll do. We'll have you come in 1 or 2 times a month when we have kids coming through there, and we need an expert to tell it from the horse's mouth, so to speak, of what happened at South High School, what happened the day after they moved the classes over to Central High School, what happened during the mustache incident. You can learn more about that coming up soon with Cleo Cross. We're going to be interviewing him for our gala this year. The mustache incident. Check it out. There's oh, yep, that was the same time. Yep. See, it's history all out there floating around, and it's just how we tell it, how we document it, and who we get to tell those stories. And
Yeah, Vietnam is a whole other bus ride conversation. We could do that the whole time. So I have a question. Maybe you all can help me, because this is now, we've been through this whole exhibit, and even yesterday when we went to the Underground Railroad and they talked about the movement forward, touched on a little bit of civil rights and the nonviolent movement, Martin Luther King and that whole part of the movement, which was very large, very prominently shared in history. Today I noticed that the only mention of the Black Power movement, Malcolm X, the Nation of Islam, very small. I think I saw Malcolm X's name and picture on one of the walls of the people that died, right? Why is it that we only talk about one half of the movement and not the other half of the movement? They were contemporaries, right? They came up around the same time. The movements kind of developed at the same time. Why do you guys think that is? What are your thoughts on that? Blue.
Well, first of all, there's when you talk about the two halves, the one that was nonviolent and one that said by any means necessary, there was always two sides of the story with our people. There were the warriors, and then there were the compassionate ones, and that wanted to work things out according to our true nature, which is compassion and love. And then there were those who were like, hey, we're being abused, we got to fight back, and we got to do this and we got to do that. And you know, it was the whole, you can't separate the two. All of them go together because they're all our people. They all go together as pieces of the puzzle. If you look at our history, if you want to get the whole story, you got to put all the pieces of the puzzle together to get the full, complete knowledge of self. You can't separate one and say, no, I'm not going to have that. I'm only going to follow this. And it was basically an evolution of our complete mind.
Okay, so an evolution of our complete mind. We can't separate both halves. We have to look at both to get the complete picture, but consistently we're only seeing one half in the larger portion of media. So
I found a book online that I decided to order, and then I went to the bookstore and found it. It's called Black AF History.
yes. Oh, I've heard about this book, Black AF History. They had it in one of the bookstores?
I got it in Grand Rapids.
Oh, okay.
I just wanted to share a portion. I was going to bring this and ask you to read this.
Can you come up?
Can I walk? I don't know that.
And Rev, while she's coming up, did I see that, was there a thought formulating with you, Reverend, that you had?
So I think there's a mistake to understand or to try and analyze
What you think it is?
it was by any means necessary, but that didn't necessarily mean violence unless it was self-defense. And there was a lot of strategy on both sides, and they go together. And we should not let the media pit us against each other. And the two movements have been kind of placed against each other because of the media's influence. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Yes, love that. Love that. That's exactly what I'm talking about. The reason I asked the question too, and I'm gonna let you share your passage here in just a minute, is because what I do know about the Black Panther movement and the Black Power movement was it wasn't all violence. The whole national school lunch program and other school breakfast program and different social programs that were integrated into the country's, the government's structure was because of the Black Power movement, and very community focused, very taking care of our own, which yesterday when we were talking about the things we could do, there were some of you on the bus who expressed, why are we not teaching our kids how to grow food? Why are we not teaching our kids how to live off the land and things like that? And I feel like that whole chunk was very much a part of the Black Power movement. And so I just wondered why we don't talk about it as much. Here, I'm gonna let you, Miss.
I was a Black Panther on the south side of Chicago.
You were. Yeah, I hear some applause here. Yes, 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 yes. Perfect. Okay, so Ms. Lois has a passage from the book Black AF History, and I'm going to give the mic.
I'll be as quick as I can. Thank you. The Supreme Court has said this about all black people, not just slaves. And that is that blacks will be enslaved for almost forever. So they said they were considered at that time as subordinate and inferior class of beings who have been subjugated by the dominant race, and whether emancipated or not, yet remain subject to their authority and so had no rights nor privileges. So, notice the Supreme Court said this about all black people, not just slaves. White supremacy is a foundational principle of America. This line of thinking was further extended in 1924 with the Racial Integrity Act of Virginia defined a white person as a person who has no trace whatsoever of any blood other than Caucasian. And then he goes on to talk about other families, other groups. Still, it was almost impossible to accurately define whiteness. At one time, the Irish weren't considered white, or Jews, or Italians. They were only accepted into the club when they proved they could join in the oppression of people who were not like them. At one time, Hispanic people were not white. Now they are white Hispanics and non-white Hispanics. It's a beautiful magic trick. Even Du Bois thought so, as he explained. But what on earth is a whiteness that one should so desire it? And then always somehow, some way, silently but clearly, I am given to understand that whiteness is the ownership of the earth forever and ever. Amen. This is where this writer disagrees with Du Bois. Whiteness is not a social construct, nor is it as eternal or as confident as it seems. Whiteness is fleeting. It is a ghost, a shadow of an imaginary thing. It is the result of an insecurity that not only justifies man's inhumanity to man, it reinforces the subconscious doubt in one's own inferiority. Superiority does not require subjugation. A superior human being has no need. But what on earth is whiteness? Whiteness is fear. And that is how this author ends it. And I maintain always, I tell students, even though I'm not quite clear on all of it, there had to be a point when man was evolving into whiteness, and we were already black in the subcontinents, as we want to call them, in the African continents. We were black and flourishing. But man was evolving. We are the mothers and the fathers of every human being on the face of this earth. Black Eve was our mama, grandmama, etc. So if that's the case, obviously when white folks began to evolve and their skin began to have to change and hair grow long to keep their bodies warmer and more hair on their bodies, smaller lips so the cold of the ice age would not freeze them out. When they knew that they had to go out with 8 people from 24 in their little clan and kill a woolly mammoth in order to have all that they needed, fat, fur, bones for tools, etc., then they would have to really be quick, smart, fast people. They lived in the cold. They didn't go out and stand and lay around or take a nap in the middle of the afternoon. They kept moving. It was cold. You'd freeze to death. So they became a very quick, adept moving people, and also began to notice as we began to move around the world that there were fewer of them than there were of us. And they have never recovered from that. And the loss, when you think about it, really, only 1/9 of this world that we live in is populated by white people. All other countries are countries of color. And so you have to look at the big picture to understand how important it is for white people to hang on to the little bit that they've always known that they had, which wasn't much, but they were able to do the magic trick and tell us that we are nothing. Nothing. And some of us still believe that we are nothing. My motto to my students is always kick some ass. Miss Lois just taught a whole history lesson in 5 minutes. Wow. That is a lot to unpack. Who on the bus will be interested in having some regular conversations at Grandma about either that book or this? Okay, so make scribes, make notes, programming notes, that we might want to start a discussion series, maybe even around that book. Maybe it might be the first one. Yeah. So, yes.
Along with that topic, we have a generation of young people who are biracial. I have 14 grandchildren, 8 are biracial. And I struggle with how to have them be forceful about their black identity. And I really would like to be in a group where grandparents, generally not parents, but grandparents are helping their young biracial children claim their black identity.
Is that something that you'd be willing to help organize?
I sure would.
Okay, so we got one potential action is helping to organize a group for grandparents with children have biracial, or the grandparents of biracial children, helping them to be able to express their black side of their identity, or embrace their identity fully. Yes. So, okay, there's that. Who else? Back there. The back of the bus is on fire right now. I'm here for it. Q, yes.
I know a lot of things already that we've seen are sad and painful and they hurt. And I saw some people very much like our tour guide said, if this is too much for you, please walk, please take a beat. But I also think as hard as it is for us to watch, we have to think how much harder it was for our people to go through it. So I personally feel like we owe it to them to watch it. And I would just encourage everyone to add some history into your life, because I don't watch TV. I don't watch this real world housewives, baddies, because that's detrimental to us. But I know that life can be hard, and it's easier to escape and catch a beat. But at the end of the day, if you really sit down and think about it, we take enjoyment in watching our people fight, and watching the drama that these TV shows and these reality TV shows, if you sit and just watch reality TV shows, you think that's reality, because they make money off of drama that they create, and a lot of it is our young black girls. And so if you could just, life is about balance, everything has its place, But while we're watching these individuals, please incorporate a documentary or read a book, or The Miseducation of Negroes, an amazing book if anybody needs a book recommendation. But yeah, I would just encourage you to add some balance to the entertainment as well.
So Deborah and I are on the same wavelength right now, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I'm about to put you on the spot. We have white allies, white friends that have joined the group, as we did last year as well, and we appreciate that. And one of the things, Deborah, I think it was that you said yesterday that you were enjoying about the trip was that this is an opportunity for you to learn. So one of the questions I had from yesterday from Dr. King's speech was about, let me get there because I don't want to say it wrong. My mind has been going through a whole lot. The white moderate, and the question is, what is it about, can we talk about the role of allies and bystanders in movements? And I'm hoping that maybe I can get some thoughts from Deborah. And please tell me your name again, because I'm Marcus.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm putting you on the spot. You're in the hot seat. And thank you for letting me put you in the hot seat. I appreciate it. Because you definitely put you in the hot seat.
And I don't want to fall down, but that would be embarrassing. So one of the things I just said to Blue was I went through a lot of my life thinking that I knew what was going on, and I knew what I needed to do and allies needed to do to make the world a better place. And I thought it was leading up to the election of President Kamala Harris, and then we were going to have Nirvana and everything would be okay. So I now know that I don't actually have a lot of advice to offer about the role of allies or anything like that. But Reverend Harrison just asked me to share a story with you that I shared with him. Boy, I've told you a couple of stories, so now I'm not sure which one. I'll go with this one. We were just at the International Museum at the Woolworths counter there, and I was thinking about, and I learned more details about the four young men who sat in at the lunch counter, and particularly what was his name? McNeil. Yes, thank you. Who went on to become a major general. And what I was thinking was that let me start with my grandfather. My grandfather was a fixer for the White Citizens Council in Yazoo City, Mississippi, at the time that, yeah. And so an enforcer. So he was born in extreme poverty. To take care of his family, he got a job in the mailroom at a bank, and there he met the head of the White Citizens Council, was the town doctor, Dr. Moorhead, and he ingratiated himself to Dr. Moorhead by saying, give me work to do for the White Citizens Council. And so he did. He said, well, I'm going to get you, actually, you'll become a bank vice president, and when people in the community speak up for voting rights, or they complain that the schools are no good or whatever, you will call in their loans, because everybody was a sharecropper. You will call in their loans, they will lose their homes, they will lose whatever they have, and they will have to leave the county. And so he did that. He did that. He destroyed many, many black families. That was my grandfather. So how does this connect with the citizens, the young men who sat in at the Woolworth counter? So when McNeil was in the ROTC, my father, the son of
the fixer for the White Citizen Council, was also in the Air Force ROTC. And he saw what was happening, and it touched his heart. And he became, he ultimately, for whatever reason, I don't know what was in his background that caused him to be touched by that, but he eventually went home and he told his father, I support the civil rights movement. I support voting rights and equal education. And so he was kicked out of the family for 10 or 12 years. He wasn't able to come home. But McNeil became an Air Force officer and ultimately went on to become Major General. And my father was an Air Force officer and went on to have an outstanding career. The rest of the story is my father did not become a colonel or a major general or anything like that, because later in his life he chose to have us attend an integrated church in the 1970s. So remember, in the 1970s there were no integrated churches, and any church that had any black people at all was under surveillance by the federal government. So the FBI was watching my dad go to this integrated church, taking me there, and they called him in, and his commanding officer told him, you need to quit this church. And he said, no sir, I can't quit my church, and you don't have the right to ask me to do that. And he came home from that, and he told me he might be in trouble and that he was really sorry, because he was my father and he was supposed to be protecting me and taking care of me, but he might be getting our family in trouble. Now, ultimately it was late enough that the Air Force backed off and they left him alone, but they never promoted him again. He was considered a troublemaker, so his career ended there. But I was just thinking of those 4 young men. In the videos we saw, they seemed so brave, you know, and strong, and they were so confident. I'm sure they were actually, excuse my English, pissing in their pants. They must have been so scared, because they knew in detail what could happen to them if they did that. And I don't know if they ever suspected that they touched the heart of someone like my father and changed him into a man who spent his life, you know, serving all of humanity. And you just think of those connections, these little things, you know, that we don't know that are happening.
So, George.
One of the other things I think that the museum did was they connected the economics. And you know what they always say, if you want the answers, follow the money. So if you look at the way, you know, they did a little thing about rice plantation and how it became a cash crop, same with sugar, tobacco. But it was the whole thing about economics, I thought, that really changed it. It was a story that they told about, I think it was a guy at Woolworths, and when they started to not support Woolworths, the boycott, when we talk about non-violent versus violent, I believe the boycotts had probably more effect than any other kinds of civil rights attitude. Once you started changing the money dynamics, most of them just caved right in.
Yeah, racism is bad for business. Racism is bad for business. They learned that real quick.
And my theory is that we still have that power. When we were asking about what is it that you can do, get a group together and say, we're not going to support this. We're not going to buy Netflix. We're not going to do, you know, whatever it is. You can get a group of people. Well, it's not as easy these days, but if you could get a group of people, what would just happen? When Jimmy Kimmel, they said, well, get Steve Colbert. I believe that power to the people. I believe it's power to the people. I believe people do have that power.
checks are bouncing. I called up probably 50 black women and said, do not shop at Rogers Department Store. But nobody coalesced. Just like when they said we are building the mall so no black people can go there, nobody paid attention.
You see what happened to it? Because all the stores rather be in an urban setting because we buy stuff, we spend money. Nobody was going out there, so money wasn't spent, and all the stores are closing.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah, they wanted to buy only in the urban area.
But we don't have any urban area
The
now.
Woodland Mall, that's why the stores, like the big stores, came to Woodland Mall because they knew more minorities came to Woodland Mall.
Right, and every kid that I had at juvie for 22 years said that's where they got picked up because there was more than two of them standing together at Woodland Mall. And when do I see them? At the Juvenile Detention Center. So it goes on and on, but my thought and theme is that unless we can coalesce and work together truly with these, not just ideas, but actions, like the boycotts, like those 4 young men in Grand Rapids, I think that we're not going to make any more progress. And our kids, our black kids, are failing in Kent County. 80% of Grand Rapids public schools are black and brown. And those kids are failing. 37% of them are going on to college. Okay? How many of those, and I challenge the people at Grand Valley, yeah, you want to tell us that you brought in however many black kids as freshmen at Grand Valley. How many of them actually matriculated? Very few. When we went to our granddaughter's graduation just this past May, June, whatever, for every 8 Hispanic kids that I saw graduating, there was 1 black. 1 black. Our children are not graduating from college. And so we've got to, I think it is not practical for us to think now about making change globally, but just at one step at a time. I'm talking too much, I know.
No, you're
but
not.
I
I was just
wanted
making, you're
to
fine.
say-
You're fine.
I wanted to say one other thing. One of my best friends growing up in that little town out up north surprised me when we had our event in June. She now lives in Missoula, Montana, wherever that is. She flew in for overnight. And on that day, she is in her 80s too now. She told me, Beth, did you ever realize that I never came inside your house? And you were never welcome in my house. But we were fast friends. And I said, and I never even noticed that. She said, my parents were from West Virginia. And my daddy thought that the fact that your family was there in that town was the most despicable thing ever. And she came all these many years later, in her 80s, to honor my parents and to step inside our home.
Wow.
So that really was impactful for me.
But Betty, who is going to be the leader, the organizer for this generation? Because this is a big void in Grand Rapids.
Well, you know what? I was thinking about that as we walked through these 2 museums. Bayard Rustin, I didn't see anywhere. He was
he
the
was on the wall.
greatest strategist that we had during the civil rights movement. But because
What was the name?
Bayard Rustin.
Bayard Rustin, who happened to be a gay homosexual man, therefore he had to be in the background. But that was his role, was to implement the strategies that would allow MLK and Julian Bond and all of them to move forward with our central
Miss Deborah, yes.
That history thing is the most important. You don't know where you're going unless you know where you've been.
Correct.
And we don't know our history the way we should. And that is what we have to stand on, this history of miraculous people who have survived things that very few humans have to survive.
Thank you, Ms. Lois. Ms. Deborah, did you have your hand up?
Indian kids.
I did. I'm going to come up.
Good.
We're in South Carolina. While she's coming,
everybody wants to be upset. They thought, and I'm gonna tell you now, it's a warning. We're all gonna have a lot of trouble getting him out when his time is up, and that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. So if you tell me, it was a song, I can't remember who sang it, where this woman took this snake in and healed it, and then he bit her after he got well, and she said, "Why did you bite me? I took you in." He said, "Shut up, silly woman. You knew I was a snake when you took me in." And some people, there's realization here that this is real. That's what we're living now. Everybody's upset. I said, one lady said she was upset, went to her grandmother, and her grandmother said, "Baby, don't be upset. God is Trump's boss, you know. He's all our boss. So God works in God's time and not ours. So we can't go to God with our advice on what he should be doing." He told me a lesson a long time ago. I was worried about something. He said, "Why are you worrying about that person getting into heaven? You better worry about yourself getting there. You're not doing the little thing that you need to get there, so don't worry about nobody else." So, you know, and I just thought I wanted to, I was surprised that my grandson was wise enough to realize that, and we never look at people as black and white. I look at how you treat me. That's where I was raised. 200 of us in heaven. So, and so people will warn you. Don't go with her because she's such and such. She never done nothing to me, so I can't judge her on that. So I'm just saying we're all one person.
Thank you. Thank you. So if you guys can bear with me, for just one more moment before I get back to the audience feedback. Yesterday at the restaurant, many of you were in the fish place with us last night, and you have moments where you either walk the walk, you walk the talk, right? So we're in this south part of Ohio. This guy comes into the restaurant, only white person except the folks behind the counter. And you know, you run through your mind like all the judgments and all the predeterminations, because we all have them. Black people have them about white people have them about black people. And so I'm the last person in line, and he's right behind me. And at first, you know, I start making light about the fact that, oh yeah, this is your bad timing coming in here behind a busload full of people, you know, trying to have dinner. And he was very cool about it. He was super chill. I'm like, okay, well, let me see if I can, you know, kind of test the waters and kind of the things we're talking about. And, you know, I asked him about his family. He's got 3 kids, and he's a police officer. Immediately, I'm like, okay, great. I won't have this opportunity for a long time. So I started talking to him, like, you know, he asked about what we were here for. I told him we were on the bus tour about history and things like that. He talked about 2 homes in the neighborhood where he grew up that they talk about the Underground Railroad. And so some addresses and stuff like that. So he was very well aware that they talked about it in his schools, which is super cool. So I asked him about being a police officer. I said, so how do you handle I didn't ask him what he thinks about police brutality and things like that because of the news. But it turns out that, you know, he wants for his kids what we want for our kids. He said it makes him sick to have to teach active shooter drills to kids in school, but that's his life, that's his work, right? He doesn't like to have to talk about what to do when Black people are stopped. He doesn't like to have those conversations, but he has them because that's what you're supposed to do. I was just truly impressed. We talked a lot about music and his family and the upbringing and how he specifically mentioned 3 black families in his community, the only 3, but he knew them by name. He knew that their families grew up together. So we can have our own preconceived notions about things, as we all do, but it's the real conversations that you have, being willing to sit down person to person and see each other's humanity. And I think that he had a different opinion about, you know, black history and groups of black people that come, and it's not just black people down and white people. It was a breakthrough moment, and I think that the more we can have these kinds of conversations and don't shy away from them. I mean, it could have been small talk, could have been, oh, the weather is chilly or whatever, but I was like, no, we're gonna put our foot all the way through this door and we're just gonna have a real conversation person to person. And we talked, I mean, you guys were there. We were in the restaurant for about 30 minutes and we talked for about 30 minutes about real life things and commonality and what we want for our children, for our future. And I think that next time he goes and has a conversation with his peers, he's going to think about, you know, the people that he interacted with and how his actions can give other people hope in other communities. So I just wanted to share that because it was such a powerful moment. And when, you know, you're talking about the intersectionality of, you know, discrimination happening, not just against race, but, you know, all kinds of discrimination happens. But if we don't see each other as human beings first, we are never going to make it. Never going to make it. So, yes, Teresa, and then I saw some hands. Yes, Teresa, and then this young lady, and then the Reverend. We'll go back that way, yes.
Thanks, Carolyn, for sharing that, because I'm sure everybody noticed that you were really having a conversation. But what struck me when the young man came in, I'll just tell you, right? So, the door that most of us went in, or most of us went into, was actually the exit, right? So we were in the other way, we were going the other way. And when he came in, this is what struck me when he came in, right? He came in and he noticed that all of these people on the other side, he knew, I said he a local, because then I said, oh, he a local, he know that, you know, that this was the outline. So I noticed him walk in, he took a look around, and he walked all the way up to the front, and he came all the way around to the back, and he said, where's the end of the line? And I can't tell you how many times I am under my breath when people walk in and just eat, and you ain't even got to be in the wrong line. You in the line that you're supposed to be in, and they just walk to the front of the line as if you do not exist. And so when he came in and he did that, that was my very first observation of him, is that he did that. My second observation was, here's this man, he comes in, it's nothing but a room full of black people, and he was in line. It did not faze him, not one bit. It didn't. Look, if I walked in and I seen all of y'all, I'd have been turning around looking for somewhere else to go. Period. So, but you know, so those were my initial observations of him, just based on and due to the daily interactions that I see and have with a lot of white people, right? And so when I saw you starting to have, you know, this conversation, because I stood there for a few, I don't know why I was there, because I already had my food, but anyway, I think that was probably some of it, right? Because I noticed that, and I noticed that he was just, he was just there, and he didn't look nervous, he didn't look scared, he didn't look, you know, none of that. And to observe that, you know, as a black person, and now to hear the conversation, and now that's what I said. Now to find the conversation that you had with him, I'm like, you know, I try my darndest not to prejudge people, right? I really do. I try to be observant of people and not judge. But so thanks for sharing that, because my observation of him jived with the conversation that you had with him. So I just appreciate you sharing that.
Thank you. As I'm getting ready to pass the mic, I see you. Just even if you have prejudgments, have the conversation anyway. Just do it. Just move. She's been waiting, and I'll get back to you.
What I wanted to say to you, I hope you tell us the whole conversation because it looked like it was kind of deep. And I was just wondering, being nosy, but I was just wondering. I said, but he's at the right person to keep, whatever it is. So I knew you had something to tell us about your conversation. And thank you for sharing.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, it was a two-way conversation.
So I'll tell y'all what I thought. When I saw that man, I said, "Oh, that's a fine white man." But I am in a happy relationship. I told my mom, I said, "Mama, he is fine and he's tall." And then I saw Carolyn talking to him, and I said, "Carolyn is flirting with this man. I hope it all works out." So thank you for sharing the depth of your conversation. That's all.
First of all, he's 12. Reverend, help me out here, please. Help me. Get these women off me right quick.
We're not in Cooperville. I also wanted to give you for the courage that you had to keep it real and to go straight to that point. Second thing I want to say is that young man has been impacted by someone. His life has been altered and changed because he met some people. His heart has been changed. He is open and in difficult places.
Can't hear you back here. Can't hear you.
You have to use the mic. You have to use the mic.
Yeah, I don't have to be the only one to pray because I'm ordained. All of y'all know how to pray. Thank you for praying for me. But what I was saying is that he has been touched. And somehow his heart has been changed. He's open. And he's young enough. The horrible thing for me is that there are young people who are just the opposite. But he's up against the whole culture. So when he goes back to that department and trying to talk to his colleagues, that's supposed to take him out. So he's up against the whole culture. So what you did was to encourage him, to give him power, to empower him to keep doing what's right. Okay? So because that little change makes a big difference. And it's not just a individual change. We have to change the system. And that's the way it's done. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm down for it. You can help me write it, George. You can help me write it. A new one act play. I've got some notes about some things. So yes, here comes blue, friends. Here comes blue.
All right. We gonna say the same thing. We all was wondering what was you talking about? What was she talking about with that man? What was going on?
We talked a lot about the system and also being able to change it from the inside, and that my dad was in the sheriff's department as well, and just the fear, because one of the experiences that he shared was that there was a traffic stop with some young black kids that had come through for spring break, and it was like a taillight situation or whatever. And he said the one thing when the girl got out of the car, she was so terrified. He could see the fear in her eyes, and he's like, I need you to calm down. She was like, but you're getting so close to me. He was like, I want to come closer to you so I don't yell at you so that you're not scared. But at the same time, she's backing into the street. So he's like, babe, I need you to come closer to me so you don't get hit by a car. So these are things, right? The real things. Like he was like, I just really wanted her to not be scared. I was like, that's every black person when they encounter law enforcement. And he paused for a minute after that. Like he really had to think about that. Like, every black person that comes up against the car of law enforcement has that same fear. And he really thought about that. He was like, wow, So yeah. So the conversation was, as because I remember different parts of it, you know, as we go around the rest of the trip. I'll share with you guys, but it was a great conversation. So, yeah, his kids like K-pop. I'm like, what? He listens to hip-hop and rap and all kinds of things. I was like, okay, then. Anyway, here. Christian. His name is Christian. And he followed me on social media, so I followed him back. So he's a conservative, but he's open. So, yeah.
You need both birds. You need both wings of the bird.
You do.
Yeah. Okay.
I just wanted to share something. You know, nobody, black, white, purple, red, yellow, want to go back to yesterday. Nobody wants that mess anymore. You know, well, not really. Not really. They think they do. They think they do. They think they do because they've been given false hopes about what it is. And I just wanted to share. There's a passage in the Bible. I think my brother's church, my brother-in-law shared a sermon, and it was about the children of Israel. And as if you could think about America being the children of Israel for a moment. I can't remember the prophet, but they had asked God for a king. Yeah, Samuel. They asked God for a king, and God ran it down to him. He was like, okay, when you get a king, this was going to happen. This going to happen. Your daughter's going to be in bondage. Your kid's going to be in bondage. He's going to make you do this. He's going to take so much taxes. He's going to take everything from you, and this and that and another. And that's what's going to happen. So you sure you want that? They said, yeah, we want a king. We want a king. He said, okay, don't come back calling at me. When I give you this king and you don't like him, don't come back and holler at me talking about you don't want the king no more. Because that's what you asked for. So this is basically what we're going through now. All these people ask for this king, and he's turning against everybody. He's turning against everybody. You know, even the people he thought was his supporters, they're like, wait a minute, you putting us out in the mud. And they're like, well, you voted for him, you know. So the whole thing is, you know, be careful what you ask for, and always know that God is always in control. So this is nothing, you know, to him. He like he told my sister said, you know, he was talking. She said I was talking to God. He said, stay out my business. You mind your business. This is my business. I'm running this. You know, and so God, we can't calculate how he puts things together. Because believe it or not, I believe what's happening is bringing more people together for unity than it is, you know, more people for unity than it is for not. Because it's showing all the people who wants the divisiveness and the racism and all that, they're seeing that it's bad for everything, especially business. It's bad for business. You know, and if nobody knows anything else, if the money flow stop going, they're like, hey, we got to change something because we don't want. And that's what, like George said earlier about the boycotts and stuff. When you hit the pockets, they don't care what color you are. They want that green. You know, so that's all I had to say about that.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Marjorie Taylor Greene
Thank
is
you
a
for
piece
sharing
of work. Anyway.
Yes.
Her kids got hit with that high insurance bill.
Okay. We had a lovely conversation. Any final thoughts before we kind of break it down a little bit? Q's got a final thought? Okay, perfect.
Please vote. Please vote. There's a thought that your vote doesn't matter or doesn't count. Yesterday, she talked about how just one vote changed something for the good. And so to those people The brain believes what you tell it. Do not tell yourself that. Please do not, because even if you don't vote, you are essentially voting. So that's all I say. And don't just wait for the presidential election. We do have elections. We have primaries. Please seek to understand the importance of the primaries. The primary, please. It makes the difference.
Yeah.
And school boards.
Hi, family. Speaking of voting, make sure you ask your kids and all your loved ones if they are registered to vote. There are so many people that's not registered. And I only know this because now you cannot move without having a government-issued ID or driver license leading to where you live. The easiest thing to get is a voter's card, voter registration, and then use it. Because you can't move without it. And I just want you to know that those are new laws that's happening. So don't try to vacate your property without it, because it's not happening.
All right, thanks, friends. Round of applause for a great conversation.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna turn the mic off. We can snooze, nap, all the things. And I'm about to work, actually. My boss just called me, so that's my next thing. So, yeah. How much further for a break? As soon as he finds something, we'll take a break. And then we're a couple hours away from our destination. So we're about at the halfway point. Perfect. And did you have anything you wanted to share about the conversation? Okay. Later. Richard said later. Okay.
Sunday, September 15th, 1963. A bomb explodes in a church in Birmingham, Alabama. 4 little girls were killed. We couldn't believe they would kill children getting ready for Sunday school. I guess it shouldn't have been a shock. The bomb was planted by the Ku Klux Klan. Earlier that year, young protesters marching from the church had attracted the attention of the nation by braving firehouses, police dogs, and jail to break the stranglehold of segregation in the city. Now, 4 are dead.
The Ku Klux Klan could do anything they want to. And to know that could happen to you, I was kind of scared. And I think I was kind of angry too.
Activists who helped organize the young protesters are devastated. To honor the 4 girls and transform Alabama, they urged Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. to start a voting rights campaign in the state. 90 miles away in Selma, high school students are already taking a stand.